tonight's class is going to be on skincare and what we can do naturally to support skin health and heal different issues that come up with the skin. First, let's talk about what the skin is and get a little understanding on the skin. One, the skin is the largest organ that we have. It is an organ. The the skin is also considered to be a third lung. You breathe in air and you exhale toxins through your skin. You need to be able to breathe through your skin. And that's one reason for wearing natural fibers, is so that your skin can continue to breathe, can take in oxygen and throw off waste throughout the day. If you are wearing fibers that you cannot breathe through, unnatural fibers that do not allow oxygen to move through them, then you can actually be suffocating your skin and building up toxins and where the waste can't get out. Pores as being little mouths. So you have millions of little mouths all over your body that are absorbing and taking in all the environment that is surrounding you. When you're in a bathtub of water, you actually are drinking through your skin to some degree. I've actually used tea in a bath with one of our gentlemen who had Parkinson's. We actually put him in a bathtub with, we made a gallon of tea and added that to his bath water. And it was a strong sedative tea, and let him soak in that, and it just calmed him all down. It was very calming, very relaxing for him. We do it with babies. I mean, you'll add lavender to the baby's water and different things like that with children, and they're actually absorbing it in through their skin. And all those little pores are little mouths that are just drinking in little bits of all that and taking nutrients in through the skin. So consider that your skin is a lot of little mouths that are just eating up and drinking up whatever environment you're standing in or that you are in. So, what you wash your clothes in, what you walk through. I mean, if you're in a really dirty city in a really dirty environment, you're actually breathing that in through your skin. I mean, even if you're wearing a mask, you're still getting it through your skin. So give it up. It's not going to help that much. Understanding that our skin is the third lung, it is also absorbs nutrients and throws off waste. So when it cannot breathe, when you cannot use your skin well, and that goes in, we want to go down to cleaning it well. We need to make sure that we skin brush. Get one of those natural fiber skin brushes, and every time you bathe, brush your skin. That's just going to keep it vital and allow the skin to throw off the waste better and to clean up better. All right, now let's take one step further on just the basic skincare. I like to use, some women will just take and rub down with olive oil after they get out of the bath. Olive oil is very nutritious. It's a very nutrient rich food that you can rub on your skin and that can go in, but I take it one step further. I use the BF&C oil that's made in olive oil, and I use the oil before it's been made into a salve. So it's got no beeswax in it, nothing to clog the skin. And I'll just take, and it only takes just a few drops. You just put a few drops in your hand, rub it around, and I put it on my face. And then you can just rub it down your skin. You don't want to be an oil slick from it, but just allow it to absorb in. And BF&C does a couple of things, and as we go through the list of issues for skin, you're going to see these coming up again. It strengthens the elasticity in the skin. It feeds the skin, which strengthens the elasticity so that you don't have that old lady look coming on, which I'm still trying to get some, but for 61, I think I'm doing pretty good. But it keeps everything tighter, and I can tell if I go a few weeks without putting it around my face, because I'll just then and come over my eyes and all this after my shower, I'll start getting droopy eyes here, next to you've seen the old lady thing where all this just starts drooping in here. You can't even put eyeshadow on or do anything with your eyes because the skin is too loose. And it will start loosening up and it'll tighten right back up with the BF&C. All right. So the BF&C is going to help with the elasticity in the skin. And when the elasticity is strong, then what you're not going to have, and this comes up with varicose veins, it's also part of the rosacea issues, hemorrhoids, which is a completely other subject. All of this happens because the skin loses its elasticity and the veins are allowed to float to the surface instead of being held in the center. So what we have with the BF&C is going to strengthen the elasticity so that the veins are held in the center of the body or of the skin, in the center of the flesh instead of floating to the surface where the veins begin to show. They're supposed to be in the center of the flesh. And when the flesh loses its elasticity and it becomes too weak to hold it there, then the veins are allowed to float to the surface and it causes pain and they are more breakable. It's easier for them to get bruised and bleed or whatever. And with the rosacea, it sounds like from the research that I did on that the veins and vessels are weak to start with, that there's a weakness in them to start with. This will strengthen them also because it has the nutrients in it to also strengthen the walls and linings of the vessels. So they will become stronger also using the BF&C just on even over the rosacea. I would definitely not use it with the beeswax if you're having the acne that goes with the rosacea, because that will just kind of clog the pores. So one thing when there's acne involved and that, you can use the oil around the eyes or maybe over the real bad places where there's veins that are having problems. But you can actually take a cotton ball and use the tincture as like a, the old sea breeze that they had years ago. I don't know if you were around back then. Yeah. You just dip it in and you just rub your face and let it dry on with the BF&C will then just be soaked into skin level from the tincture without any oil added to it. And you will get the nutrients that way in without the oil. So I would play with those two things if you're dealing with facial issues and where oil would be a problem. I would still kind of want the BF&C oil for around the eyes because that's going to be more of a carrier. The oil carries it in deeper than the alcohol would. But if it's just your basic skin, the top few layers of skin, well, then you want to dry those out anyway and get any excess oil out of them. So play with those two things, the BF&C oil and the BF&C tincture with a cotton ball for that kind of stuff. But that's for cleaning. And then for the whole body overall, the BF&C oil is excellent just for nutrition to the skin, feeding the skin. Okay. Going to the larger thing is skin bathing, sunbathing. Dr. Christopher talked very strongly about, and this is really good nutrition for the skin. It's going to get the vitamin D in. Sunbathing is something that he strongly recommended, but there is a way to do it. You start with just 1 minute on each side. So, and that is almost a waste. I mean, when I first started sunbathing, it was like, come on, 1 minute and I'm back in and I put all this oil on me and everything to do this. And then I'm 1 minute out there, but you want to build your body up. So, I mean, maybe 2 or 3 minutes to start with. I thought 1 minute was a little bit over the top, and he did live in the desert area where it's really, really hot. So, do what seems right, but start slow is the whole point. And you would sunbathe every day for 6 days a week. And on 2 days, you're going to take and rub yourself down with olive oil, or you can use BF&C oil, but an olive oil type thing for 2 days. And then wheat germ oil for 2 days, and then castor oil for 2 days. And so you're switching between these. You just do a light rub down, like any suntan lotion or whatever, over you with these different oils, and they each do a different thing. The castor oil is a flushing. It flushes the skin and just helps clean toxins out that way. Wheat germ oil is one of your best sources of vitamin E. It repairs really well. And olive oil is food. And then when you it feeds the skin, and when you add the BF&C in there to it, you're really feeding the skin. So, but if you don't have the BF&C oil, just use plain olive oil. It definitely won't be bad. It's still valuable. So for sunbathing and just getting out there and really just getting that vitamin C in, and it's just very revitalizing to the body to do that.
Are you saying to do that before or after sunbathing?
Say that again.
Do you put the oil on before or after?
Before.
Okay.
Before you go out in the sun, you put the oil on. Yeah. Okay. So, and then, like I said, start out slow. Don't go a full half hour. You want to work up to where you can do a half hour to an hour. I don't remember exactly. It's been so many years, but it's on my my calcium info sheet. If you get into Lady of Herbs, download the calcium info sheet. And the reason it's on that one, and that's Christopher's fault, is because vitamin D is very important for the uptake of calcium. So it ended up on the calcium info sheet. So anyone who is concerned about uptaking their calcium, you can ingest all the calcium you want, but you're not going to get it uptook if you don't have enough vitamin D in your body. And you're not getting the vitamin D, it'll just go right on through and you won't even get anything out of it. So let's see, it's the basics on skin. So let's get into some of the issues we have with skin. All right, let's start with the basic cuts and scrapes. All right, several years ago, I had Margaret, one of our employees, she brought her son by. He'd been horsing around on his motorcycle and had come off that motorcycle in a really bad way, and road burns. It was he was just a bloody mess when he showed up here, and she brought him here, and we put him up on the massage table, and I just started cleaning him up, and nothing needed to be stitched up. It was just abrasions from here to where his pants started, and even a little below the pants. And what we did was cleaned him up with, washed him off clean, and then you use cayenne. The cayenne will stop the bleeding, and it also brings healing without scarring. To this day, he has no scars from that, none. I mean, he had some pretty bad abrasions on there, and I did it with the, we went completely over everything with the cayenne tincture, just dabbed it on everywhere that skin had been broken. And then we went back with the infection salve where it was needed. Some of them were just air dried, no big deal. But where it needed to be bandaged or whatever, we put the infection salve on there and bandaged them up as it was needed. He does not have any scars except one on his wrist that I didn't see. I didn't see the cut on his wrist. He had his hands around. He was holding on to the table, trying not to act like a baby and cry. And, it was stinging, and I know it was stinging, but he took it really well. And Margaret came in the other day, and she actually mentioned that. And I said, oh, that'll be good news for my class. And she says he has no scars from that motorcycle accident at all. Just one on his wrist, and I never saw that cut. But if you use the cayenne right away, it will tend not to scar. My husband, he cut his thumb open came through here, popped out, did the thumbnail, popped out the knife, and it went back in and just sliced this open, and it was just laying open like a filleted fish. He was laying some tile in our bathroom, and the Durock, that cement board, the forward thrust, he lost control and sliced his thumb open. And he came to me, and it was in a towel, and it was just blood coming out of it. And he says, "Boy, I really messed this thing up. I just took and irrigated it with cayenne. I just took a turkey baster and squirted cayenne into it. And within seconds, there was no more blood coming out. It was like 2 pieces of meat just laying there. And then I cinched it together as tight as I could and bandaged it with a cloth bandage. You don't want to use a plastic bandage or anything that can't breathe when you've used cayenne. It won't heat up as long as it can breathe. If the material, you can't breathe through the material, if it's not natural fiber, it will heat up. So you want to have breathable material. And then I just tightened as tight as I could. And that was on Thursday. On Monday, when everyone came back to work, he couldn't even show it off. It was completely sealed, and he ended up with only just a little scar right on the top of his thumb where I couldn't get the muscle to stay tight together. It was just heavy. The weight of the bandage, I just couldn't keep it pulled tight enough together. So there's just like a 1/2-inch scar right on the top of his thumb muscle. But for as bad as it was, and it's completely usable, no problems at all. The longest thing was growing out the thumbnail. It took him 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months to grow his thumbnail back out because he'd sliced that in half.
I'm sorry. Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
One holistic doctor told me, what about raw honey and cayenne? Because he had me doing that one time. I cut my hand. But that
raw honey, I don't think you really, the raw honey is, it's kind of an antibacterial. We have things that are much better than that and aren't so messy and gooky and yeah. I don't like working with honey. I tend to work with my infection salve instead. It soaks in better. In the olden days, they used the honey to keep the bandages from sticking to the wound. When they were the old time doctors back in the early 1900s and late 1800s and all that, honey was used kind of as a salve type thing so that the bandage would not stick to the wound and they could change it more easily. And it's also a bit antibacterial, and it would seal things so that bacteria couldn't get in there, because honey's sticky and it's thick and dense and ain't nothing going to get through it. And so it was used kind of as a protectorant, and it also allowed the bandage to be removed more easily without ripping scabs off and all that other stuff. But the infection salve, other ointments and things, I would go for them before honey. But if honey is all you got, go for it. It definitely isn't a bad thing, and it's been used for hundreds of years that I know of. It would definitely protect it until you could get to something better. And if people are suggesting it, it's still in use. So yeah, honey would not be a bad thing.
Okay.
Okay. So for scrapes, scratches, cuts, anything where the skin is broken, even a paper cut, you dribble a little cayenne in that and you can forget about that paper cut. I used to get them, and for weeks I would just have this nagging little pain on my finger. You put cayenne in there, as soon as you do that, just dribble a couple drops of cayenne and you can forget about that paper cut. It's gone in a day and you never even feel it. It numbs it out so you don't even feel it anymore. It's just wonderful. You might still have to Band-Aid it overnight or something, just to get it to seal back up well. But I've often, when it's just a light slight one, just dribbled some cayenne in it and just, held it for a moment and went on about my way, and it just healed, and I never had to think about it again. Without the cayenne, I'm thinking about that paper cut for days, weeks. It was a real annoying thing. So I think we've covered cuts, scrapes, those things. Okay, next, let's move on to bee stings, spider bites, and poison ivy, and this type of thing. One thing I learned that I had forgotten about or never read or it never sunk into my brain was mullein. If you run into any of the poison ivy, poison oak, stinging nettle, any of those things, and you see a mullein plant close by, take and bruise that thing up and just get the juices over that. Mullein neutralizes the poison all but instantly. Dr. Christopher talked about it as an eraser, a poison ivy eraser. So that would be if you're out there in nature or something and you run into some poison ivy, poison oak, stinging nettle, whatever, and you see the welts coming up, just grab some mullein, mullein leaves, they're weeds that are everywhere, and just bruise it up really good and just rub that and get that juice all over it and get that neutralized. And I like the way Christopher talked about it. He said it was an eraser. It would erase the poison. Stepping beyond that, if you don't have that or you weren't able to didn't notice it fast enough for whatever the reason, the infection salve has the comfrey in it. Is it comfrey? I believe it's the comfrey in it that also neutralizes ant bites, spider bites, and these are minor ones, not your recluse. If you get, I'm not going to go into the recluse spider bite, but I do have instructions on my blog. If you get bit by a recluse spider, you can take care of it naturally, and the instructions are on my blog on what to do. And those were instructions where I took it from a member. She wrote up part of it. I finished it off. We put it on the blog. Her husband had gotten bit by one, and this was his testimony coming through. So it's not just an idea. It's something we did that worked. So I believe if you look under spider bite, you can get the recluse spider bite instructions off my blog. Jewelweed is also an antidote for poison ivy, poison oak. It's also one of your most fantastic anti-itch issue for, I've had people use it everywhere from athlete's feet that were itching to whatever itches were going on, even with hives and things. They've just rubbed jewelweed all over them, and it's an excellent anti-itch. We have recently started making a new salve, and this one came out of this past summer when I was working out in the yard. I got some pretty nasty spider bites, some chigger bites. My arms were just this arm was just in hives. And I ended up doing I believe it was 5 liver flushes in a row to get it completely cleared up. But it's completely healthy now. It was red and hivey and patchy and a mess. And the thing that really saved me from going out of my mind with the itch was the healing salve. And we had come across it, and my husband was getting ready to put it together for one of our other members. And I started having these issues with the chiggers and the spider bites from working out in the yard. And so I started using it, and it really helped with the itch and just helped calm everything down. It's Dr. Christopher's healing salve. It's his general salve for whatever skin issues. So, and I would have to say it works quite well. So for bee stings, spider bites, all these types of things, the infection salve works really well for taking the sting out and clearing that much faster than just letting it go on its own. If you pack a bee sting or a regular spider bite, just a garden variety, or red ants, any of those things with the infection salve, with the plantain, it really takes that sting out a lot faster. All right. Okay, bumps and bruises, arnica oil. That's the beginning and the end of bumps and bruises, arnica oil. It just, they don't happen, or they just go right away. It is not a wives' tale or anything. It really works. I remember a few years back, I was headed for the bathroom, one of those bathroom things where I'd been on the phone too long and I had to go, and I ran into the wall on the way and I bumped my arm really bad. And I'm sitting there, and I'm watching it, and the blood is just coming out. You know, the bruise is forming while I'm sitting there looking at it. And I go out to my desk and I tell my husband, I said, bring me some arnica oil. And I put that on it, and I just watched as all the bruising went away. It just disappeared right back away. So you use it right within 24 hours of bruising, and it will often, well, I shouldn't say 24, maybe anywhere from 6 to 12 hours from the accident or the hit or whatever it is, and it will reverse it. A few years back, the elder in our church, his wife fell and broke her nose. She tripped over one of the asphalt bumps out in the driveway. He came by the next morning and picked up some arnica oil, and she'd done it the night before as we were coming out from prayer meeting. And we had just driven away, and I didn't see her fall. And so he called me the next morning and told me what happened, and I told him, come by and get the arnica oil. He did. He put it on her, and she had been to the hospital, and she had definitely broken her nose. Her nose was broken. She had no black eyes, nothing come up. She just had one streak of, it looked like somebody had run a pin down her cheek right here, where she didn't put the arnica oil over that. She just kind of brushed it out this way and over her eyes and all that, but she missed one little line here. And you could see, if you don't cover it, it will show up. You got to cover all the skin with it. And she had no black eyes, no nothing. It was beautiful to see, and that was the next morning before she got the arnica oil on. So it works really well.
I'm sorry. Can you spell
Pardon?
that oil?
Oh, arnica. ARNICA.
Is that just a common oil that you can get anywhere? Or do you have
I
it?
believe a lot of people make it. We make it here,
You
but
do.
yeah, but arnica oil is pretty common. The only problem is they want to charge so much money for it. I mean, I've seen little tubes of it that were going for 30, 40 bucks. And it's just like, why? You just get the arnica flowers and you extract them into oil and you've got arnica oil. I mean, but they're going to make a dollar where they can, and especially when it works, and it always works. So,
Well, Dara,
yeah, it's just arnica oil. Yes.
so very commonly that is available is arnica cream and gel and like that. And after my significant fall, I was using that along with the marijuana oils that a friend of mine made baseball. And at some point, I'd like to ask you what's your viewpoint, and as far as Dr. Christopher and the marijuana oils.
I don't mess with that stuff at all. I mean, if it does have properties, it's one of God's creations, but it's not in my repertoire. I just have found no need for it, and I have tried it. I mean, I had some members send me some, and I wasn't impressed. I didn't find it that valuable.
And
I've found other things that are more valuable.
I didn't either. In fact, I'm sensitive to where the odor is just repulsive. You know.
Yeah, it's controversial, and I just don't think it's that great. And by the time they get all that THC out of it, they've messed with creation anyways. You know, what's the point? they're destroying enzymes and whatever they're doing to it to change it. So it's not the way God created it anyways. And I don't even know if God did create that one or if it's one of these noxious weeds that came along afterwards. It's confusing, and I'm just not that impressed with it overall. But if somebody gets benefit from it, and we do have members who have made marijuana extract for people with late-term cancer pain. And, you know, some of our practitioners, which I will never name, have done that. And that was long before it was legal. But it was, they swore that a few drops under the tongue was very helpful. If, you know, we all do the best we can. And if it's done in a heart for blessing others, then that's what counts. But I don't find any use for it. Okay, let's move on to,
Kayla,
yes.
I was just asking, go back on the healing salve. You said that's a new salve that you made?
Yes, it's one of Dr. Christopher's that we had come across, and I had always used the jewelweed for the poison ivy, poison oak, and all those things, but there were several people that were not responding well to the jewelweed. They were still having really bad issues. So we started looking for something more, and we found this that Christopher had made and one that he had used. And we developed it, and it's actually pretty good. Don't ask me what's in it. I didn't bring the ingredient list, and I don't remember. And if I say what I'm thinking is in it and it's wrong, it'll put it in your minds wrong forever.
Okay. So what
But
about
it's only got like
chickweed?
3 ingredients. I think it has just like 3 ingredients,
Okay.
and it's actually really good. I mean, when my arm was so broken out, I don't remember if you saw it or anything this past
No.
summer.
No.
Spider bites, chigger bites, and bunch of
did.
stuff. Yeah, it was really messed up, and that just kept me from just going crazy. It actually took 5 elves in a row for me to clear that up completely.
Okay. So the
it was bad.
the chickweed salve that you usually make, is that different from, does it give the same result at some point?
The chickweed salve is for irritation, inflammation. It's more for inflammation.
Okay.
Chickweed is to take down inflammation. Okay.
All right.
This is more for when the toxins are coming out and you've got an inflamed, instead of swelling up. When I say inflammation, I mean chickweed is for when it's swollen. Christopher
Okay.
talked about this dog he had that had gotten into something, and his lips were so swollen that they were almost covering his nose and smothering him. And he just let the dog eat through several jars of chickweed salve. And by the next morning, his snout and everything was just back to normal again. So we're talking inflammation on that thing. I was the inflamed is a little different than inflammation.
Okay.
This was hot and inflamed and itchy and painful.
All
And
right.
chickweed would not have been what we were looking for in that. It might have
Okay.
provided some benefit. If it's all you got, I would put it on. But you're probably going to need something a little bit more.
Okay. Thanks.
All
Sarah?
right. Yes.
Hey, I was just looking on your website and it lists a jewel weed salve. Is that the healing salve?
No, jewelweed salve is the antidote. It's just one herb in that, and it's jewelweed is the herb, and that's the antidote for poison ivy, poison oak. It's also a wonderful anti-itch. If you got itchy issues coming, it's wonderful for taking itches down. When my dad was living here with us, we found that one out. He wanted to use it all on his athlete's feet. And he said it took the itch out of those. And I'm saying, let's go with black walnut and get rid of the issue. Sometimes dads can be difficult. All right. Okay, next one is abscesses, boils, cysts, and infected wounds. All right, the first thing you want to do when you've got boils, abscesses, the cysts, and infections, hot, painful things, you want to do your charcoal flaxseed poultice. That would be the first thing that I would grab for when you're getting down to doing. I mean, if it's already gotten infected, you didn't do anything to start with like you should have anyways. So you didn't get the cayenne in it, you didn't do your infection salve to start with, and it's gotten inflamed and infected. Now you get to do your charcoal flaxseed poultice. And I've got a video on how you make that, and that will just draw the infection right out. As long as it's inflamed and infected, it will not close. A wound will not close if there's bacteria in it. That's one reason on these older people where they get their bid sores and decubitus ulcers and things like that just won't heal. They're not going to heal as long as they've got bacteria in them. So the first thing you want to do if you're ever dealing with an older person that has, the ulcers, the broken down skin area, is you do your charcoal flaxseed poultice, get that purified, get all the bacteria cleared out of that, and then put your healing poultice in it so that it can heal and seal it off and it will heal up. But so for the cyst, it will pull. I've seen that this poultice drain a boil overnight. Big ones, that were way up in the body. One woman, she had a boil in the groin of her leg, and it would go up into the leg where you couldn't even see it or feel it or anything, and then it would come back down right into the front of everything and just be hot and inflamed where she could hardly stand to sit. And we just put the charcoal flaxseed poultice like a diaper on her or a pad. And that night it pulled it out. It pulled it from way up in her out and drained it. And when she got up in the middle of the night to void, the yellow goop ran down her leg where it had just pulled it to a head and drained that boil out overnight. Another woman, she had really bad boil all in the fat in her stomach, and we just made a big pad of it across her stomach, and it just pulled all of that stuff to one place and just drained it. And we got cupfuls out of that woman, just pulling the putrid waste out of her. That charcoal flaxseed poultice, it is wonderful for clearing toxic boils and that kind of thing. They will refill though. That's just the immediate 911 to get the pain away, because a boil is hot and painful and hurts. So you get it drained, and you don't have to go lancing it or cutting it open. It'll open up on its own with the charcoal flaxseed poultice. You won't have to do anything. It'll pull it to the surface and open it. You won't have to do anything with it. But once you get it drained, then the whole point is, the reason that it was able to form is because the blood is putrid. The putrid condition in the blood allowed it, and we'll just keep refilling it until you clear that. Okay, burdock root tea is the answer to purifying the blood. And my own testimony with boils was about, I don't know, it's been almost 10 years now, probably. Time goes by so fast. I got a boil on the back of my legs. And I could hardly stand to sit down, and I had drained it 2 or 3 times. I had done liver flushing. I'd done all this good stuff, and it just kept refilling. I could get it to empty, but I couldn't keep it empty. And so I went searching in Christopher's stuff for some answers. And what he came up with, Christopher was not a profuse man. He didn't use adjectives lightly. He said burdock root would quickly clear boils and carbuncles and the like. And so just seeing the word quickly there, I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. So you do it 1 cup 1 time a day. You do not take it repeatedly in the day. Burdock root increases your urine flow. I mean, you will be peeing to beat the band. You will not know there was so much water that could come out of you. And the water is heavy. It is dark. It has got so much waste in it that it is really, really dark. And mine would just sink to the bottom of the toilet, and there'd be light water sitting on top of it. And it would just sink down to the bottom of the toilet. This yellow, really rich, dark yellow stuff would come out of me. But there would be so much you'd wonder how it could be that heavy. I started doing this just 1 cup a day, 1 time a day, 1 teaspoon of burdock root in a cup with boiling water over it, let it sit, simmer there for 15 minutes, and then I would drink it. And to add a little octane to it, you can put a couple dropperfuls of tincture in there, you know, when you're beginning to steep it. And I would drink that. And I started on Tuesday, and on Friday, the boils were completely gone, and they never came back. So that to me is quickly. I mean, we're talking 3 days and no more boils. I mean, I got up Friday morning and they were gone. There was no more pain. You couldn't even see where they had been. The boils had completely cleared. So the burdock root, it purifies the blood, and what it does is it aids the kidneys. It supports the kidneys in pulling more waste from the body, from the blood. It helps them filter better. That's why the urine is so much heavier. And you've got to make sure that you drink more, because you are really low. I mean, your kidneys are just on hyperdrive, pulling waste out. And the burdock root also did a lot of clarity to my mind. And I just noticed I kept using it for like 9 or 10 months. It had some effects I won't mention on open camera, but it was really beneficial to my life overall, and just raised the level on quite a few levels. So just getting the toxins out of you, you just don't realize how low you are until you start coming up. So boils and cysts. Yeah, and then especially with cysts and infected wounds and all that, you'll want the infection salve to bandage them and you know, do the good stuff. And if it's bad enough, like, you know, boils and all that, I would suggest you go ahead and do an ELF, do an emergency liver flush, get your system cleared out, because you are seriously pulling waste out of your body. So when you're getting into skin issues where you've got infections and stuff going on, it's time to get that liver moving and making sure it can do it. Okay, the hives and eczema. All right, this is one that is a real bummer for a lot of people. It can get a hold on you, and it is so hard to get those things out of your system. Is anybody dealing with hives and eczema? Okay, well, hives and eczema, this kind of stuff comes on when the liver is unable to get waste out through proper channels and you're detoxing through your skin. So when what you're doing, it's going to take liver flushing. You have no choice. In this case, you get your bowels open and you start liver flushing. And to heal the skin and all that, you can use the healing salve. You can use BF&C salve, whatever on the skin, but it's not going to make any difference until the body stops putting those toxins out through the skin. As long as you are backed up in there and your body is trying to detox, the liver is pushing waste out through the skin, topical applications are going to be a waste of your money. You know, just whatever it takes so that you know, the itching goes away or keeps the itching down, or, you know, whatever you need so that you can tolerate the process of getting better. But don't expect the healing to come from a topical application, because this is not a topical issue. This is coming from the liver detoxing through the skin. So you've got to go and clean up on the inside and get that train moving in the right direction and get the waste going out through proper channels again. Shingles, very painful issue. The shingles, germ virus, whatever it is, it hides out in the spinal cord behind the blood-brain barrier in the spinal cord. And the only thing that can go in there and chase that down and get it out is black walnut. So you want the black walnut salve and the General Nervine salve. And then, of course, you'd be doing infection work with the infection and adding a little black walnut internally to make sure that you chase all that down and get that killed off back in there. That's why shingles comes back up over and over again, is because it just goes dormant, and it is behind the blood-brain barrier. So normal vitamin C, you know, the infection formulas, they can't get in there. They can't get into that area. Black walnut is the lead sheep that will take that will go in there and kill it off where it's hiding out. So black walnut is the answer for shingles. And Christopher also says that black walnut is one of his first go-tos for skin issues. So I would also adult acne and rosacea. I would I made a note here on my thing with under the rosacea and adult acne that you might want to even take some black walnut tincture or you know, and use that. My only concern is black walnut is a beautiful stain. The salve doesn't have the stain in it. It doesn't tend to stain, but you don't really want to put the oil. Well, you could use the oil without you know, just the plain oil without the beeswax in it, and that wouldn't be quite as bad. But you could just see, you know, that would be something to play with, and you could take it internally, definitely. You know, internally. But Christopher has made several comments that black walnut is his big go-to for any skin issues. That black walnut is the first thing he would grab. Yes, it goes away. It doesn't stay stained. I mean, you've got, when my husband had a trunk fungus back in like 96, 97, he had a trunk fungus. When his father passed, his mother just passed his t-shirts on to him, and his dad had been in the military, and he had had a trunk fungus from his military days, and mom thought that the t-shirts were through the laundry, they would be clean. Well, no, she gave it on to Michael. And he would get these blotches in the summertime, especially just these little circles, and it would be like dry, flaky, circly, and just on his trunk, and you know, down a little bit below the bikini line, but you know, not down into the jewels too bad. But his trunk, his back, and not his arms, but it would go under his arms, and so they called it a trunk fungus. And he used some creams and stuff from the doctors and all this for years, and nothing touched it. I mean, it'd make it fade a little, but it wouldn't go away. And when he learned about black walnut, and we had some black walnut trees on our property, he just went and got the hulls and cut them open and just rubbed them all over him. And he was underneath his t-shirt for about a month. He looked like a little Mexican man. My husband is not dark at all. But he was really, really dark. I can't say he was necessarily black. It wasn't quite that bad, but it was definitely a dark Mexican under his t-shirt. And it took about a month for all that to fade and go away, but the fungus was gone. And it's never come back. He completely got rid of the trunk fungus, and it was only like maybe 2 or 3 applications that he had to do that. And it's been completely gone. And I've suggested that to several who have come to me with that same trunk fungus, the same description of stuff, and it's worked every time. So skin issues, black walnut is definitely, it's the most powerful antifungal we got out there. All right, skin cancer, for this one, you're gonna need the Incurables program and the Black Cancer Poultice. And for more on the skin cancers, the info sheet is up there, and if anyone has any specific questions or concerns on that, I'll be happy to answer them. But I just wanted to address it quickly, that there are answers, and they usually come around pretty quick. But you do have to do, I mean, you have to know this is a cancer, and it's systemic. It's coming, you develop this cancer not because you overexposed to the sun. As westernized medicine is going to say, the skin cancer comes along because the sun, you know, a reaction from the sun. No, according to Christopher and to all logical sense, all the sun does is ripen what's already in your body. It's already there. It just pulls it to the surface and ripens it. You would not have, the skin cancer was already in you. The sun exposure and all that just helped it ripen a little bit faster. And it would have come up at some point anyways. The sun was not the cause of the cancer. Cancer comes into the body when the eliminative organs are too degraded to eliminate the waste. All cancer, all tumors, all of these issues come because the eliminative organs can no longer move the waste out effectively. They are broken down. They are unable to remove the waste from the body. So the weak spots in the body are going to get the cancer. You know, it starts stashing waste wherever the weak spots are. And if you've abused your skin with too much sun or whatever, well, your skin's a weak spot. It's an organ. And it can be the weak spot that gets it. So it's not the sun's fault. It's the eliminative organs are not able to get the waste out of the body anymore. Any questions on that?
I do. In some things I was reading, it was saying what we put in our mouth, our food that we eat, also affects us when we go into the sun. I'm African American, and we will get skin cancer, and we get other problems. But some people think we don't, but we do. I understand that we have to watch what we eat also.
Yeah, the toxicity. I mean, when you're putting processed food in, one, you're not taking in the nutrients and nutrition that your cells need to perform correctly and that your body needs to be healthy. So, you know, one, you're not taking in what you need when you eat junk food, and two, you're now taking in toxins that the organs that are not being fed well have to eliminate. So it's not just bad on the one side, it's bad on all sides, because the body that needs to now get rid of all this waste and get the toxins out is not being fed the nutrients it needs to move that waste out, and it's having more dumped on top of it. So yes, what you put in your mouth, what you eat has everything to do with the health in your body and with whether your body can sustain a healthy life or not. Does that make sense? No, nobody's saying
Yes.
no, so.
It makes sense. It makes
Okay.
It took me a long time to unmute, sorry. It makes a lot of
okay.
sense.
Yeah. All right, well, let's, our next on my list here is varicose veins. And we'd already talked a little bit about varicose veins. I'll just go a little back into that just a little bit. Varicose veins come along because the skin loses its elasticity. It is no longer able to keep the veins in the center of the flesh where they're supposed to rest in the center, and because of the loss of elasticity, they then float to the surface, and they don't do well there. The flow, the blood flow, all these things get backed up, and there's a weakness in them. So when to take and clear varicose veins, you have to feed the flesh and get the flesh, the elasticity back in the flesh. And the best thing I know for that is the bone, flesh, and cartilage formula. The comfrey in that formula just feeds the flesh and will strengthen the elasticity. Also remember when you are dealing with something, especially if it's a major, if you've got major varicose veins. And, remember, hemorrhoids are kind of varicose veins in your bottom. That flesh, usually from constipation issues, or what causes varicose veins there, or hemorrhoids. Just that hard waste coming out and hitting that tender flesh in the rectum over and over again until it loses its elasticity. It just gets worn out. I mean, you stretch a rubber band so many times, eventually it's going to lose its ability to stretch and retract. And so that is what you are dealing with the varicose veins, is the skin is losing its ability to hold the veins in the center where they belong, and the veins are being allowed to float to the surface. So to clear those issues, you want to pack your the area with the BF&C salve, take the BF&C internally, cut out all your processed food. I mean, white flour, white sugar, all of that stuff. It just destroys the calcium in your body. And it also wipes out your immune system, your hormone levels. All these things are destroyed. So, if you're going to eat that kind of food, you're going to pay the price in your body. It's not going to have the nutrients it needs to be healthy. But to clear up the issues then, I mean, you can start eating well again, but then you've still got to focus on where the damage is. And doing your, the BF&C is wonderful for clearing those up. Anybody have any questions on varicose veins or any of these issues so far?
Yeah,
Yes.
Dara. Oh,
So I have a question, let Franklin here. And that is,
Yeah, Franklin.
in light of the varicose veins and packing it with BF&C, how frequently would you pack it, and how long a duration do you think it would be before you may get certain visible results?
Okay. I will share with you my experience. I remember sitting in church one Sabbath morning, and I was in a skirt. I normally wear pants during the week, but to church I'll wear a skirt. And it started throbbing. I had a big old fat one right on the side of my knee. And it had been there for a while, and you forget to do anything about it until it really bugs you and hurts you. And it was just throbbing, and I had my hand over it, trying to warm it up a bit, because it was just throbbing so bad. And it just brought it to my mind, I should do something about this. So I packed it with BF&C, and it was one time, and it went away. But I use BF&C all the time internally. I've taken it like a vitamin for years. I mean, it's like every day. Hardly any day goes by that I don't take at least one dose, because you get out there and I'm digging out in the yard, I'm doing this, I'm tearing up something constantly. My knees are sore and all this. I just figured the BF&C is just going to be something good for me. So for me, it was one day, one application. I packed it one time, it went away, and it's never come back. And I don't have varicose veins on my legs anywhere. I've had a girlfriend, Sandra, and many of you I've shared with you. She passed away a week ago. She's a good friend, but she had spider veins on her legs really bad. She was a Black woman, and she had really bad spider veins on her legs. And for her, it was about a week and a half that she put the BF&C packs on, and she called me and she says, they're gone. All the spider veins are gone. They just went away. And, it wasn't, heavy veins coming out of her. It was just all those spider veins coming up her.
Okay.
So honestly, I've seen the BF&C work fairly quickly to clear these things, providing, of course, that you're not eating junk. I mean, if your food program sucks, nothing's going to help. But if you're doing good for yourself, yeah, you're focusing the body's attention on that area, and it will just go in there and clean house and do what needs to be done and revive those areas. So the older we are, though, the longer it's going to take for things to work. So for those of us that are getting over 60, over 70, you might want to double that time, just because the body takes longer to do things when you get older.
Thank you.
But I've seen it work really fast. Any other questions on that?
Yeah, Dara, I had a question.
Sure.
Because before you were talking about using the oil, so is the oil more of like an overall thing? And then if you've localized stuff like the varicose veins, you can put a pack of the salve on those?
The oil is you're just going to be rubbing a little bit. It's just for the topical skin. It may prevent it may be a preventative. But once the varicose veins have appeared, you're going to need to pack it with the salve pack. And the reason I like the salve over the oil when you're packing is because it lets you concentrate more of the product, more of the nutrients and all that, because it holds it together and lets it pack more over the area. It holds it in a band so that it can soak in more instead of just dissipating throughout the cloth. If you took and poured the oil on your cloth and just put it over it, it's just going to go everywhere and soak into the cloth, and not be as available to soak into the skin. The salve just works better when it's thickened a little bit. Is that making sense?
Yep,
Yeah.
got it.
Okay. But the oil, using the oil topically, it would be a preventative. But once it's broken down and you've got that broken down issue, you really need to saturate that tissue with the nutrients so that it can heal better. So it's just a matter of more when it's scarred. Dealing with serious scarring, adhesive scars that come after childbirth, where they do C-sections, where the layers of the skin have adhered together. Serious scarring, you want the 3-oil massage. That's what you're going to use over serious scar tissues, is the 3-oil massage. And basically, I'm saying massage, but it's the 3 oils, the olive oil, castor oil, and wheat germ oil on alternate days. You would pack for 2 days one, and then 2 days the next, and then 2 days the last one. So 2 days of olive oil, which I would do BF&C oil for the olive oil. 2 days of castor oil and 2 days of wheat germ oil, and you just continue to alternate those until you get rid of those adhesions. And then, of course, you're taking your BF&C internally and doing your flushing, your liver flushing, all that other good stuff. But for scars and scar tissue, try those 3 oils over them. Itch, okay. And we're not talking here just itch that like Hy-Vee itch and all that. We're talking just an itch where the skin doesn't seem inflamed or rashy or anything, but it just itches. And this is a different type. This comes from the kidneys. Itchy skin. And it took me a while to understand the difference, even though I had it, because I had kidney disease for a long time until my kidneys got stronger. And I would have the itch. I'd also have little white bumps that came up on my arms. And I had like an itch. And I've understood that is kidney, not liver. When it's just like a dry itch, but it's not a Hy-Vee. There's no redness or hives or anything. It's just itchy. Your skin is just itchy. It seems to be a little different. Well, I know it's a little different. My skin is smooth and clear now. It's very soft and clear, but for most of my life, it was very bumpy and I had an itch on my arms all the time. Christopher says for this, of course, you want to do your kidney flushing, get your kidneys cleared out. Your kidneys are obviously weak, and they are pushing waste through the skin. They're not detoxing well enough. The chickweed salve would be helpful for this one. Black walnut salve, of course, would be good. And for serious cases, go to the BF and C salve to get that itch cleared. I think the healing salve would also, I didn't have that one in this one, but the healing salve would probably also be very good on this. But where it's coming from is you've got to clear the kidneys and support your kidneys. So, and this is not Hy-Vee itch. This is just your skin is itchy. Am I confusing anyone on this?
No.
Okay. It's not the same as the liver issues where you've got hives and eczema. This is just itchy skin, but the skin appears to be fairly clear. Okay, now let's talk about warts and moles. Okay, getting rid of a wart is not difficult. You just have to do it. You take a piece of garlic, you slice off a little petal on it so that you've got one side that's gooey. You take some Vaseline, you take a Q-tip and put Vaseline around the edge of the skin, around the edge of the wart, and you put that petal of garlic right over the wart, and you Band-Aid it on there. And you change that out every 10 to 12 hours and just keep it in. It will dissolve that wart and make it go away. You're putting the Vaseline around to protect the skin. Wart is a natural healing knife in many ways. It's considered how we cut things out. And garlic will dissolve the skin, the good stuff too. So you want to protect the good skin around the bottom of the base of the wart, but just put that little petal over it and cover it with a Band-Aid. And it usually only takes 3 or 4 days, if that, to dissolve it away. It usually goes pretty quick. And if you have a lot of warts, I would do a little bit of infection work, and you've got some viruses in you you need to clear out. But if it's just a lone wart that comes up from time to time, the garlic over it will work real well.
Would that apply
Okay, mold, yes.
to a skin tag as well? Is that similar to a wart?
I wouldn't use it on a skin tag. That would start getting really painful. Skin tags, one of the things I found that tend to work good for that is the BF and C packs over them. If you've got like a big group of skin tags, you know, women will get them between their legs, or, you know, when you've got excess weight and all that, you can develop them between your legs. Or I've got a couple of my older ladies that are just covered with skin tags everywhere. And it's almost a hopeless case for some of them. They're potassium driven. I mean, just a weakness in the body, not getting the potassium, the good food, healthy food that they've needed for so long. The one woman I'm thinking about, she was a legal secretary in New York City for years and years. So she was living in that horrible environment. Plus, the heavy workload and just, you know, processed food, eating out all the time, all of that kind of stuff. And it was no wonder that her body just came back and rebelled in one way or another. She now lives in Montana, or was in Montana, doing better, but it's a little late in the game, and she's got all these skin tags now. But the BF and C packs do seem to make a difference. I've used them with some success. Okay, moles. This would probably, the mole thing might actually be more helpful for skin tags. In fact, it has been. I've got a blog on moles, and it was actually the mole testimony is what it's called, and it was sent to me by a biochemist who he didn't want his name put with it, so whatever. But he had been using our mole salve, and he said it was working. He had one about the size of a quarter on the side of his face, a big mole about the size of a quarter. And he had been using the mole salve that we have, the B&B, our mole salve. And he said it was working, it was doing, but it was really slow. So he put the cell food with it, and you can get the cell food off Amazon. And you just put a couple drops of cell food and let it dry, and then put the mole salve on top of that. And just in a couple months, that mole was completely gone from his face. One of our employees, Gay, short, cute lady, she got a mole right on the end of her nose. I mean, it came up right on her nose. I mean, talk about a vanity spot to be getting a mole. And so she goes, I don't care, I'm going to put a Band-Aid on there and I'm getting rid of this mole. And so she had read the testimony and all, and she did it, and it only took her 2 weeks and it was gone, and it never came back. She got rid of, she had, it actually was growing a mole right on the tip of her nose. And she came to work every day for 2 or 3 weeks, I think it was, with a Band-Aid over her nose. And she would put the cell food on, she would put the mole salve on, and it took that mole away. It just cleared up.
You buy cell food.
So you buy cell food on Amazon, just called CELL Food?
Yep. If you want to see it, go to my blog. I actually took a picture of the bottle. I think I swiped one of the advertising pictures off of Amazon and stuck it on my blog. And it's just a little bottle about this big, and it's blue and white, and it's called Cell Food.
Dara, what else could cell food be used for?
They initially sell it for you to just put drops in water. It increases the oxygen level in your cells. It's like hyperoxygenated stuff, from the way I understand it.
Okay.
But this biochemist, he was actually a biochemist, and he had played with this, and he used it, and so he sent the testimony in that this was actually accelerating the work that the mole salve was doing and making it much faster. And it does work. I mean, I've seen it firsthand here with Gay's mole on the end of her nose being gone. It does, the cell food does burn just a little bit when you put it on and it's drying. There's a little itch, a little burn that comes with it. You kind of ignore that. Once it dries and everything, and you put the salve on over it, all that goes away. But there is, it's potent stuff. So there is just a little discomfort in using it, but it's worth it for getting rid of the moles.
So is the real supposed use of the cell food is internally as a tincture?
Yeah. 1 or 2 drops in a glass of water. They talk about it. I mean, there's a big write-up about it there on
Okay.
Amazon where you go in to get it.
Okay.
I've never used it for anything more than mole stuff, but it does have value for other things. I'm sure it's with as good as it does on this, I'm sure it's valuable for whatever else it's used for, because it's good stuff. Okay, sunburns and burns, our last skin issue. Other than, I switched my pages because I'd written in rosacea and adult acne. So sunburn and burns, of course, the M&L salve, believe it or not, the M&L salve is an excellent burn salve. So the Mullein and Lobelia really works, and I got that. I have a burn testimony on there from one of our ladies, and I think she's a practitioner, but I'm not sure. She's in Washington State, and she wrote me in and explained how she had been rushing off the next day to catch a plane, and she was in a hurry cleaning up her kitchen and everything, getting packed, and she grabbed a hot skillet, a hot pan in the palm of her hand, and just toasted her hand. And she told me that she has an understanding of herbs, and we all understand from our experiences, and get different experiences with different things. And so she understood that M&L, the mullein and lobelia, for the burn properties it would have, and she applied that to her hand, and she had to carry luggage through the airport the next day. And she said when she got up in the morning, it was like she didn't even do it.
Oh, wow.
She packed it with the M&L salve. For me, I burnt myself, and I still had to cool it before the M&L salve could go on. It still needed to be cooled down. So I personally think using the aloe vera, I have an aloe vera plant here, and it doesn't do well, but I can still slice it up and get some stuff out of it, or using the aloe vera gel to cool it initially, because that works really well for cooling it. Or soaking it in ice or something will getting it cooled, and then the M&L salve, and it just really clears it up to where you don't even know you did it the next day. It works really fast and really well. For serious burns, we had one of our members that had a paint can explode in his face and his upper body. His kids, he had a burn pile, and his children had thrown a paint can in there, and he didn't realize that, and it exploded on him. And he provided pictures and everything. And if you get the burn info sheet, I don't know that I did that one, but you can get it off Lady of Herbs. It has his testimony. He took pictures and everything on the healing with the days and all that, and he healed without any scars. And he said as soon as he started using the burn salve, and it says there how to make that burn salve, that there was no more pain. The worst pain he had was getting the stuff that they put on him in the emergency room off and getting the natural burn salve on, because he was in agony until he got the burn salve on. But that is outlined on the burn info sheet. But for quick stuff, have an aloe plant or some aloe vera gel around for the real heat. The M&L salve really works well. Okay, we've talked a little bit about the rosacea and the adult acne as we've gone along. Rosacea, from looking it up and from understanding what I do about this isn't something that Christopher talked about. And so I've had to kind of research this one on my own. In rosacea, you have an issue where the vessels in the skin of the face especially are very weak, and they'll break and bleed, and you have very weak venal system in the face, where the red is coming up. There's a weakness in the veins and vessels there, and they'll break open, bleed, and or just under the skin cause the redness to come up. And with that, there seems to be some adult acne associated with it. So to me, it sounds like a toxicity. Get the blood purified. I would try the burdock. I would do the liver flushing and the burdock root, just work with the kidneys and the liver, who knows which direction that's coming from. The BF&C to strengthen the veins and vessels in the face and prevent the breakdown of those. So rebuild the flesh in the face with the BF&C. And if you need to use the tincture with cotton ball, because of the acne issues, you can just dab the tincture on with the cotton ball instead of using the oil-based oil. It doesn't go as deep, but it still will have the healing. And then, of course, I wrote black walnut down here because Christopher says that for any real skin issue, black walnut would be his first go-to thing. There is black walnut in the BF&C, but you might want to add a little extra to your program one way or another. Just see how that one can work. I'd be leery of putting it on my face as a tincture because I'd be afraid of the staining. effect. It does. It's a beautiful stain. Okay, any questions or any issue with the skin that I didn't think about? I tried to go through and.
I have a question.
Sure.
Go ahead. The other person had a question. I can wait.
Okay. Who else had a question? I can't see everybody at once. Just go ahead and talk up whoever it is that has one.
I don't have a question, but I was just talking about the BFNCH when BFNC when my goddaughter got burned, and then you walked me through how to apply it. I must say that it was really terrific. I get a good result from it.
Oh, the BFNC burn salve.
Yeah, it really works.
I'll call you back.
Now, where she has a little bit of deeper burn, that's only the area that is still a little white, but all of the other part of her skin turns back to her color. So the BFNC, I can testify that it's very, very good. So
so you're talking, Naomi, you use the BFNC burn salve on her. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that recipe is on the burn info sheet that she's talking about there. And it really does. And there shouldn't have been any more pain for her once you got that applied. Was the pain gone?
It subsides, yeah. And yeah, it really, really helps. The doctors, they thinking that it happens, you know, the healing took so quickly, but they don't know that we are applying natural stuff on it.
Well, sometimes it's better not to tell them. They tend to get a little upset with us.
Yeah. But it was, I mean, that I would recommend that to anybody who needs it. It's really, really good. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Naomi. Okay.
Yeah, I had a question. I know this is simple, but I'm wondering about face washes and scrubs and exfoliating. I'm not for sure what's good out there.
Okay, you definitely want to do skin brushing.
Skin brushing.
And that would be another way of saying exfoliating. It's a natural fiber skin brush, or where you're really clearing the waste and the dead skin and all that from your body, especially from your face. You want to exfoliate, I guess would be a good way of putting it. I wouldn't want to do that with chemicals or anything like that. I mean, just some good soap and water. And, you know, just remember, every cell in your body is an open mouth that is just eating in whatever you put on your skin. And if it's not something that you really want to ingest, don't put it on you.
Oh, okay.
Your skin eats it all. It just takes everything in. So it's not a barrier against it. It just absorbs it. And but yes, it is good. Skin brushing is very important and very valuable.
Okay.
I would definitely do it.
What about facial masks?
There's some good ones out there.
Some good ones? Okay.
Yeah, just look at the ingredients in it. You know, get one that's natural, a bentonite clay or not bentonite clay, but you know, a clay mask that is made for that purpose. Bentonite clay, like in the No. 2 formula, it's too powerful to put on the skin. It will tear the skin up. So you don't want to make a clay mask out of the intestinal No. 2 formula. It's got clay in it, but it's too strong for the outside of the body. It works well. It's intended for the inside where there's a lot of moisture and all that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem, dear.